This video reviews Canon's financial results for the third quarter of fiscal year 2025, covering the period from January to September 2025. Canon is a Japanese multinational corporation specializing in imaging and optical products, including cameras, printers, scanners, medical equipment, and semiconductor manufacturing equipment. In the third quarter of fiscal year 2025, market conditions were affected by additional U.S. tariffs and rising geopolitical risks, which caused more companies to postpone investments compared to the previous quarter. The printing group saw a decline in net sales, although sales of cameras and network cameras continued to grow steadily. The industrial group achieved strong performance, with net sales increasing by more than 20%. Overall, total net sales in the third quarter rose by 2%, reaching a record high for the year to date. However, profit decreased in the third quarter because of the impact of tariffs. Despite this, both sales and profits for the year to date increased, supported by higher overall net sales and the positive effects of last year's sales structure review. Profit and loss. In the third quarter, net sales increased compared with the same period last year. However, operating profit and net profit declined in the third quarter due to the impact of additional U.S. tariffs and higher costs related to logistics and materials. From the first through the third quarter of 2025, total net sales reached a record high. Operating profit and net income for the 9-month period also increased compared with the previous year, driven by higher sales and the positive impact of the company's previous restructuring of its sales organization. In summary, while external factors such as U.S. tariffs and geopolitical risks created challenges, Canon still achieved higher sales and profits for the first 3 quarters combined, marking solid progress toward its full-year targets. Financial results by business unit. Printing sales for the first 3 quarters were slightly lower than last year due to softer demand for office and prosumer products. Operating profit fell from last year on weaker hardware sales and higher costs, including U.S. tariffs, though profitability stayed above 11%. The medical business saw modest sales growth and improved profit as the company strengthened its product lineup and cost efficiency, generating stable revenue and earnings growth. Imaging achieved strong double-digit sales growth, driven by cameras and expanding network camera business. Operating profit rose despite a slight margin dip in the third quarter. Industrial revenue grew on optical and semiconductor equipment demand, but operating profit fell due to temporary costs and product mix changes. Across all business units, Canon increased total net sales and slightly improved operating profit for first 9 months compared with last year. Outlook for 2025. The trend of postponed investment is expected to continue in the fourth quarter because of additional U.S. tariffs and ongoing geopolitical risks. Sales of cameras and network cameras are projected to keep growing, while the printing group aims to increase its market share through new product launches. The large-size equipment business is also expected to steadily turn its accumulated orders into sales. For the fourth quarter, Canon plans to achieve record-high quarterly net sales of 1.3 trillion yen or more and maintain a profitability level of around 11%, supporting continued sales and profit growth for the full year. However, projections for operating profit have been lowered by 9 billion yen and for net income by 4.5 billion yen, mainly due to the negative effects of the additional U.S. tariffs introduced in August and the overall worsening market environment. Despite this adjustment, Canon is increasing its annual dividend by 5 yen to 160 yen per share, returning to the pre-COVID level of 2019, and has also completed 300 billion yen in share buybacks, demonstrating a strong commitment to shareholder returns. 2025 financial projection. Canon expects 2025 net sales of 4,616 billion yen, up 2.4% from last year. Net income has been revised downward to 325.5 billion yen, 4.5 billion yen lower than the previous estimate. Canon forecasts an exchange rate of 148.58 yen to the US dollar and notes that every 1 yen change in the dollar would have a 0.7 billion yen impact on operating profit. Therefore, exchange rate fluctuations are also expected to affect results. Overall, Canon still anticipates moderate full-year growth supported by sales expansion, while acknowledging that tariffs and external factors are putting pressure on profit compared with the earlier plan. Summary: in 2025, which is the final year of the current 5-year plan, Canon is achieving its 5th consecutive year of sales and profit growth. At the same time, it plans to accelerate structural reforms in order to make significant progress in the next 5-year plan. However, as a result of these structural reforms, Canon's capital ratio has been declining, which is a point of concern from a financial stability perspective. Stock price. This is the Japanese yen base chart for the last 1 year. The Japanese yen stock price is 4,652 yen as of October 27, and the US dollar stock price is $29.77 as of October 26. In the previous earnings report, there was a downward revision, which caused the stock price to trend lower, but recently it had been rising due to the CAJPY effect. However, this time there was a slight downward revision again, so in after-hours trading following this earnings announcement, the stock fell slightly by about 1.5%. Current PBR is 1.29 and PER is 12.6. Dividend yield is 3.44%. Compared to the past few years, the PBR and dividend yield suggest that the current stock price is relatively high, but in terms of PER, it is lower because EPS is expected to grow significantly this year. Overall, given that the dividend yield exceeds 3%, the stock appears reasonably valued. Conclusion: despite challenges from additional U.S. tariffs and geopolitical risks, Canon achieved record-high net sales and higher profits for the first 3 quarters of 2025. Looking ahead, Canon expects ongoing market uncertainty, but plans to maintain growth in key areas, achieve record quarterly sales, and return value to shareholders through dividends and share buybacks, all while advancing structural reforms for long-term progress.